Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video brought to you by SeniorCatWellness.com. If you enjoyed today's presentation and find it informative, please feel free to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share the content. Today's video subject: is it bad for a cat to lick its wounds? Before we begin, let's first take a look at today's topic overview. While cat saliva has antibacterial properties that aid healing and recovery, it also hosts harmful bacteria. If any bacteria enters the wound, it can cause abscesses or infections. The antiseptic qualities of saliva are best suited for open wounds, but they're not a substitute for vet prescribed antiseptics or antibiotics. Feline saliva contains a host of antibacterial and antiseptic properties that can serve to soothe pain, stimulate healing, and kill bacteria within a wound. While having stated those positives, this does not mean that your cat's mouth will be free and clear of disease and other oral issues and illnesses. In some cases, especially depending on the severity of the wound in question, your cat's saliva could in fact do more harm than good. Cats host zoonotic bacteria in their mouths. These are harmful bacteria that can unfortunately be transmitted to humans through biting, and some even have the ability to resist antibacterial treatments. This is why the licking of wounds can be counterproductive at times, even with all of the glowing positives, due in large measure to food particles left in the mouth, existing dental concerns, plaque, and other forms of bacteria. The mouth of a feline isn't the cleanest place, that's for sure. Now that we've somewhat laid out most of the notable pros and cons, the question now remains: is it okay to allow cats to lick their own wounds, or is it a bad idea all around? First off, the very last thing you want is for your cat to aggravate or infect its wounds due to its very own saliva. However, you also don't want to deprive your pet of the comfort and healing properties that saliva contains. As you can already see, this topic can be a bit complicated, to say the least, as so much of it has to do with the type of wound that your cat has sustained. And we'll address that aspect of the equation in greater detail here momentarily. With respect to an open wound, we're not talking about those tiny nicks and abrasions, but rather a large gash, if you will. Should a cat lick a wound this substantial? Let's begin with the infection factor. Any open wound should be treated on site if possible, while a cat will likely conduct its own first aid through relieving pain and brushing away debris from the wound itself, with the tongue supplying somewhat of an all-purpose ointment. After that has transpired, this is where you should step in and begin treatment. If the wound is quite large, please take your cat to the vet as soon as possible for a thorough cleaning, proper dressing, and stitches, if the wound calls for it. What is an abscess? In short, an abscess is a pocket under the skin that contains pus. It is not a good idea to allow your cat to access an abscess, as it can open and become infected. The same applies to scabs. Any part of the healing, natural or otherwise, that can be manipulated and undone should be completely off limits if possible. Excessive licking to a closed or healing wound can lead to what is known as lick granuloma. And right on cue, what is lick granuloma? Certainly sounds strange enough. Licking of a closed or a healing wound can cause the skin to become aggravated. This can create the dermatological condition known as lick granuloma, which is caused by, you guessed it, excessive licking. Hallmarked by the inflammation and plaque buildup accompanied by a raised border, the wound itself can become further irritated and infected. As time progresses, lick granulomas can be classified as wounds themselves and can sometimes pose a greater risk than the original wound. Failing to heal because of the licking, the area can become very irritated, thus promoting the cat to lick more. This creates a rather vicious cycle where the cat attempts to lick to soothe, only to make the wound more pronounced and irritated, thus leading to more licking. Because it can be almost impossible to keep your cat from licking its wounds, it becomes vital that your pet's wounds have been properly dressed. This is yet another reason why professional care is so very important. When it comes to the proper healing of an open wound, it all depends on the severity and the dressing that has been applied, Stitches and the amount thereof also play a factor. If your cat has sustained a sizable open wound, we offer up the following tips for immediate care. Number 1, apply pressure to the wound with a dry gauze. Blood clots take around 5 to 10 minutes to form before the blood flow will actually slow or stop. Number 2, wash out the wound with iodine or saline solution if directed by a veterinarian. Make sure to call the vet as soon as possible. Number 3, never use ointments, creams, or other disinfectants without your vet's explicit approval. Number 4, you can wrap or bandage the wound, or, depending on the advice given by your vet, leave it open to prevent bacterial growth in a closed wound. And number 5, clean out and dress the wound daily with fresh bandages. The majority of these tips are for an on-scene situation, as we noted, but so much of all of this involves following the instruction of a vet. This is why placing that important phone call is oh so critical, as although well-meaning, the last thing you want to do is the wrong thing while attempting to help your pet. Here again, this just can't be stressed enough. It really all comes down to the injury itself. Most scratches and minor cuts can be licked clean by your cat without issue. In fact, this probably happens quite frequently, and you never know a thing about it. However, in the case of a significant wound, the steps you take and the follow-up in respect to lick prevention can be the difference between proper healing and infection. Before we talk about the cone, it simply must be stated that there's nothing wrong with the cone. Placing a cone around an animal is cliche for a reason. It's common, and it works. However, we also understand that some cats just have a fit over the cone and simply refuse to settle down. As an alternative, we offer clicker training. This can teach your pet to turn away from the desire to lick the wound and focus all intention elsewhere. By the use of the clicker, the sound can be associated with something positive, such as snack treats. Here's how it goes. Number 1, introduce your cat to the clicker gradually by offering it a treat and clicking when it accepts the treat. Number 2, do this multiple times for as long as your cat is willing to sit and accept those snack treats. Number 3, your cat will soon understand what all this clicking means. Number 4, discourage your cat from licking the wounds, then feed it treats and use the clicker when it avoids the wound. And number 5, all of this will teach your cat to stop any excessive licking. It can also stop your cat from licking any ointment or treatment that has been applied to the wound. Of course, this is certainly not a one-size-fits-all solution. So much of this depends on the wound, the significance of the wound, and of course, your cat's very own unique personality. Other non-cone methods involve a somewhat seal-proof dressing. This is where the cat is unable to lick or bite the area at all. And also, perhaps the use of feline clothing. Yes, clothing. A onesie, perhaps designed to cover the wound, thus making it difficult for a cat to reach the area due to the cloth. And before you take our recommendations into considerations, any of these recommendations, please lean heavily on your vet first and foremost. Trust the trained professionals always. Allow them to lead you in the right direction and offer up any suggestions in the process. It's not bad, in the most literal sense, for cats to lick wounds, but so much involves the severity of the wound itself and the frequency of the licking. Your pet's attempt to self-soothe and heal could lead to a major issue. Always keep that in mind when your cat has more than just a common paper cut style abrasion. If you would like more information concerning today's subject matter, please click the initial link in the description box below and join us at seniorcatwellness.com. And once again, feel free to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel if this type of content is of interest to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.